The 2022 NBA playoffs have not shortened us with spectacular games and moments where we say,
I've never seen that, and I've never seen that, and I've definitely never seen that.
but on the other side of that coin is disappointment and ugly narratives. This video will illustrate some of the things that have been good, bad, and downright disgusting. And before we continue, if you would like to see weekly content around the NBA, Formula One, football, or you just want to help a brother out, then please press that like button and subscribe to help this channel grow. Now on to the video. Starting off with the good. Unlike most seasons, there were no clear-cut favourites coming into these playoffs, which made it compelling. You could easily make an argument for at least 9 teams to say that they are contenders. I mean, in the East, you had the Heat, you had the Celtics, you had the Bucks, you had Philly, and you had the Nets. And then in the West, you had the Suns, Warriors, Grizzlies, and arguably Dallas Mavericks. The Brooklyn Nets came into this season as the betting favourite to win the championship. And even though they finished 7th in the seeding after surviving what people can call a tumultuous season, they still came into these playoffs as the 3rd favourites to win the chip. However, they were quickly dismantled by a formidable and well-rounded Boston Celtics team. Although we did not see a single Game 7 in the first round, I think that first round was one of the most tightly contested first rounds. I mean, you had teams or series that you were expecting to finish quickly, like the Suns and the Pelicans, that went deep. And then on the other side of that, you had series that you were expecting to last the distance, that were over quickly, a la Nets, Celtics. In these playoffs, you've had players that have forced their names into the superstar conversation, as well as players that have made the casual fans know their names. Jason Tatum going toe-to-toe with the league's premier talents in Kevin Durant and Giannis Antetokounmpo, and giving them the business, for me, has firmly placed his name in the top 10 list. Jordan Poole, the long-lost 3rd Splash Brother, has shown flashes of becoming an all-star level player, which will ultimately extend the Warriors' championship window. Since Kristaps Porzingis did not have that dog in him, the Dallas Mavericks have been crying out for a second star to conduct the bus whilst Luka is driving it. And it seems like they may have found him in Jalen Brunson. The 6-foot guard has come up bigger in these playoffs than what he actually is, doing more than steadying the ship in Luka's absence in the first round against the Utah Jazz. Brunson has given Dallas's offense a 2-pronged approach where Luka doesn't have to do everything. Brunson is chipping in with 22.9 points per game. Another good thing is the officiating. Teams have been allowed to play what the pundits are calling 90s defense, where players can rough up other players a little bit without the referee saying anything. And no team exemplifies that more so than the Boston Celtics. Their physicality has put some superstars out of kilter. I mean, look at these shooting percentages. And another good thing, but which I'm going to save for the ugly section, is certain players getting humbled. I can't wait to talk about that, but we'll leave that for later on. Now, moving on to the bad. I know that it's part of the game and it affects pretty much every single playoffs, and that's injuries to key players. Man, it sucks the life out of series and changes the whole complexion of them. Ja Morant missed the last 3 games of the Warriors series, and from then on, you could predict what would happen in that series, except from the ass-whooping that the Warriors received in Game 5. Chris Middleton missed all but 2 games of the playoffs. Maybe it would have been the Bucks in the Eastern Conference Finals if Middleton was there. Joel Embiid played with a fractured skull and a torn ligament in his thumb, and his team collapsed in Game 6 against the Heat whilst he was hobbled. Luka missed most of the Dallas-Utah series with a calf strain, but Utah, well, they basically Utah'd. The Bulls were without Lonzo Ball, the Pelicans had no Zion all season, and Ben Simmons missed the whole season with, well, who knows with that guy. In some series, off-court shenanigans overshadowed some of the basketball that was played. If you look at the Memphis Golden State series, that was an absolute snitch fest. Although I do agree with what Steve Kerr was saying, more so than what Taylor Jenkins was saying, but it's so jarring to hear coaches push for players to be suspended. Hashtag break the code. And another bad thing, which for me has been a little bit exacerbated in these playoffs, and it's not exclusive to these playoffs, it happens all the time, but I'm feeling it's a little bit more in these playoffs, and that's the media. Some analysts or talking heads, they've got personal agendas against certain players, and they would never give a player that they are rooting against, give them any credit. They will never speak about them in an objective manner. They speak about them in a way that's always discrediting them. So, for example, if you're looking at Skip Bayless, he will always find a way to discredit the Giannis's of the world or the Stephs.
I'm going to call out Steph one more time. I need to see more. That was pretty good last night against a team that wasn't very good.
Man, that's the second most points he scored in the playoffs in his career. Is 18
in the fourth quarter.
In the fourth quarter, and you talk about you want to see it
against whom?
Memphis Grizzlies are our playoff team.
No, they're decimated.
He always talks about Steph and talking about the 2016 meltdown, which it's true, he had a meltdown during that series. But if you look at all his postseasons following on from then, he's been nothing but spectacular. But Skip will ignore all that information, and he's got it's not selective hearing, it's selective eyesight. So he will look at a game where Steph has performed well, and he will just pick holes in it. If Steph has performed well, he's going to talk about Steph hot dogging and being cheery. And it's like, Skip, just base your analysis on how these players perform, not on personal agendas. Actually, to add on about the personal agendas, we need to count our lucky stars that LeBron has chosen to take a hiatus. I mean, it's not his choice, but has taken a hiatus in these playoffs, because I think it would be even worse. Actually, that's a good thing. That's one thing to put to the good, is LeBron not being in these playoffs, because we've had less LeBron-centric content on these sport media channels, which has forced them to become creative and not just include LeBron versus Jordan, the GOAT debate in every single show. They have to talk about other players and other teams. So that has been a positive. And now we move on to the ugly. I'll start lightly. So the first one would be the Atlanta Hawks. So after making it to the Eastern Conference Finals, I had high hopes of the Atlanta Hawks coming into this season. However, in these playoffs, the Heat made them look pathetic, more specifically Trae Young. And I don't really have any sympathy for him, because coming into this season, Trae Young uttered the words, "It's a lot more boring than the playoffs," talking about the regular season. For me, that thought process and not respecting the grind that it is the regular season and accepting this is what you have to do to get back to this level. To me, that's an utterly ridiculous thing to say out loud as the team leader, because that mentality will infiltrate to all of his teammates, leading them to not take the regular season seriously. And another thing in the ugly section, which really should be in the good section, and that's players getting humbled. And the first two players that come to mind, that's KD and Kyrie Irving. So when they first linked up, KD and Kyrie were on a podcast, I believe it's Kevin Durant's podcast, and they were talking about how they don't really need a coach. They've played this game for so long that they know what to expect. One day KD could be the coach, one day Kyrie could be the coach, even Joe Harris could be the coach. Clearly those comments were asinine. They came across as they felt that they were levitating above all the other teams in the leagues, that they were smarter than anyone. They didn't see value in needing a coach. So they fired the head coach at that time, and they handpicked the replacement, which was Steve Nash, someone who had never had any coaching experience. He just had a good relationship with Kevin Durant whilst he played at Golden State, where he was one of the trainers there. So for them to then get humbled the way that they did in these playoffs was beautiful. Firstly, because it would have been bad for the league if the Brooklyn Nets won the championship due to how dysfunctional and chaotic the whole entire season has been, with Kyrie not getting vaccinated and him choosing not to play the season. And then the whole James Harden saga and also the Ben Simmons saga. If that team won the championship, I don't know, because if you can manufacture those type of championships where you don't take full stock in terms of chemistry, you just lump elite talent together, and then if the elite talent just seems to roll over every other team, other teams would look to do the same. And for me, that's not the style of basketball that I want to see, and many fans want to see, unless you're a Brooklyn Nets fan. The next person on the list is James Harden. So after forcing his way out of another situation and leaving the two fellas that I've just spoken about, James Harden has not painted himself in any glory and has also made his general manager look stupid by getting rid of Seth Curry, who is a quality NBA player, and Andre Drummond, who at this stage of his career, a good backup big, and then also giving up Ben Simmons, when he chooses to play, is a tremendous defensive player and a very good playmaker. So to give that up, to get this James Harden, it would make a lot of sense if you'd give that up for the Houston James Harden, or even the first season of the Brooklyn Nets James Harden. But to get the James Harden that you've had now, they got fleeced. Even, let's say, Ben Simmons doesn't play a single game for the Brooklyn Nets, I think Seth Curry and Andre Drummond, the value that they contribute to that team supersedes what James Harden has been able to provide for Philly. It puts Philly in a predicament because James Harden is going to want his max dollars. He's going to want the 5-year max, which if Philly pays him that, then they might as well kiss goodbye to the whole process, because James Harden is not the same level player that he was before. So it would just take up a huge chunk of their wage bill, making it hard for them to re-sign Tyrese Maxey or just for them to add quality players. The best chance they will have in terms of getting quality back or players back would be to get rid of Tobias Harris. And lastly, the Phoenix Suns. I don't even know what to say about this team. It's been over a week after I saw that shit show that was Game 7, where they got absolutely destroyed by Luka and the Dallas Mavericks. Throughout the regular season and even into the postseason, the Phoenix Suns had an air of condescension. They looked like they walked around with a champion's arrogance, which they hadn't earned. And with that, it rubbed a lot of people, a lot of players the wrong way. I mean, look at what Pat Bev said when he was speaking on ESPN.
We wanted them first round.
Minnesota wanted them first round.
First round. Boy, scared of Luka. Ain't nobody afraid of anybody over there in Phoenix, man. Everybody in the league knows that, bro. Like, it's just that y'all don't know that because y'all not in the locker room. No one's afraid of Phoenix. We wanted them.
So, after trying to bully Luka, it was beautiful to see them get humbled in their own humble abode, in their own stadium, in Game 7. So we're just halfway through these playoffs with the Eastern Conference Finals and the Western Conference Finals being played right now. But we've seen so many moments that have left us thinking.
And I've definitely never seen that.
Comment your favorite moment or your wildest moment of these playoffs so far. And don't forget to press that like button and subscribe. I've been Gift, the self-proclaimed casual, and thank you for taking the time to sit with me. Peace out.